Welcome to Learning English, where you can level up your language skills. You learn through stories that are slow, clear, and enjoyable. Relax and appreciate the journey. 1. Introduction. Public opinion is a vital force in any country. It represents what a large portion of the population thinks about a particular person or issue in the United States. Donald Trump is the president, currently serving his second term in this significant role. Many people are curious about whether the public approves of the president's performance. This is typically measured by public approval ratings. These ratings are numerical scores derived from asking many people a series of questions. For instance, a survey might ask, "Do you approve or disapprove of the job President Trump is doing?" The responses are tallied, and the result is a percentage of people who approve and a percentage who disapprove. These figures help us gauge public sentiment regarding the president's performance. They act as a snapshot of public feeling at a specific moment. Approval ratings are dynamic and can fluctuate. Significant events, both within the country and globally, can alter people's perspectives. Recently, a major event occurred. The United States military conducted strikes in Iran. This was a prominent development on the world stage. Following such events, approval ratings are often scrutinized. Observers want to see if the event has shifted public opinion about the president's decisions and leadership. This story will delve into public opinion concerning President Trump during this recent period. We will examine the findings of various studies. We will review data that indicates how people felt about the president's work following the strikes in Iran. We will also consider opinions on other important topics. These include domestic issues like the economy as well as international matters. The objective is to present the numbers and information from these studies, offering a clear picture of public sentiment. We will strive to present this information clearly. We will not judge whether the opinions are correct or incorrect. We'll simply report the findings of the studies. Understanding public opinion provides insight into the nation. It reveals what is important to its citizens. We will analyze data from different organizations that conduct these studies. Sometimes their figures vary slightly, and we will look at examples of this. We'll also consider the potential reasons for these differences and why ratings might change over time. This first section introduces the concept of public opinion and our reason for examining it. Our focus is on public opinion of President Trump in his second term, particularly around the time of the strikes in Iran. We will use data from studies to understand public sentiment about his job performance. It's a way to see the feelings of many people expressed through numbers. We will begin with a general overview and then explore more details in the subsequent parts of this story. We will explore different viewpoints and data neutrally. The goal is to understand how public feeling shifts and how it is measured. We will present the information directly, without interjecting personal opinions. This introduction sets the stage for analyzing the numbers and what they reveal about the public's view of the president. We will see how different events and topics correlate with public feelings about the president's work. The following chapters will offer more specific details and numbers from various studies. This first chapter clarifies what public opinion is and why it's interesting to study, especially concerning a president. It also notes the recent strikes in Iran as an event that could have influenced public feeling. Our journey is to examine the facts presented by the studies and see the picture they paint of public sentiment. It's crucial to remember these numbers represent a single moment in time, a snapshot of feelings. Public opinion can continue to evolve as new events unfold. However, by studying these numbers, we can get a clearer idea of what people were thinking and feeling recently. This story will walk you through the information gathered by different groups that study public opinion. We will see how the president's approval rating stood and how it connected to specific issues and events. This chapter is the start of that. Exploration Point 2. Iran strikes and first views. The United States took military action in Iran. This was a significant event that captured widespread attention. Following these actions, people in the United States began to evaluate the president's work. Polls are instruments used to survey large groups of people. They help us gauge public thought on various subjects. Shortly after the strikes in Iran, the first polls were taken. These polls sought to determine how recent events might have altered public feelings about the president's job performance. One poll inquired whether people approved of the president's work. The results indicated that approximately 41% of respondents approved. This figure was slightly lower than some other polls had reported earlier in June. Before this particular event, approval ratings were sometimes around 45%. A separate poll also registered a 41% approval rating for the president's job performance. This poll also asked about disapproval, finding that 54% of people did not approve of his work. This same poll had posed the identical questions just a few weeks prior to the strikes. In that earlier poll, about 38% of people approved of the president's work, while 54% disapproved. Comparing the two periods, the approval number rose slightly, from 38% to 41%. After the strikes, however, the percentage of those who disapproved remained unchanged at 54%. This indicated that more than half of the respondents in this poll continued to disapprove of the president's performance. Another survey focused specifically on the public sentiment regarding the strikes in Iran. This survey revealed that a majority of Americans, meaning more than half, did not approve of the United States undertaking these military actions. These initial polls immediately after the events in Iran offered an important early glimpse into public opinion. They demonstrated that the strikes were a pivotal moment that likely influenced feelings about the president and his actions. The data from these polls suggested that while there was some approval for the president's overall job performance, a larger segment disapproved. The 41% approval and 54% disapproval figures illustrated the public sentiment right after the strikes. These initial views were crucial for understanding public feeling at that time. The results showed a divided public opinion, with a significant portion expressing disapproval of the president's work following the actions in Iran. These early polls supplied the first data points on the public's reaction. Point 3. Views on home issues. People in a nation are concerned with many things that happen domestically. These are known as domestic issues. Two of the most critical domestic issues are the economy and trade. The economy relates to jobs, finances, and business performance. Trade involves the country's commerce with other nations. When forming an opinion on the president's job, people examine these domestic issues closely. Recent data reveals public sentiment on the president's handling of the economy and trade. For many, the sentiment is not positive. They disapprove of the current state of affairs in these areas. Its disapproval is reflected in surveys. For instance, one survey questioned people about their feelings on the president's management of the economy. The number of people who disapprove is significantly higher than those who approve. This gap is quite large, at a net negative of 17 points. This -17 figure indicates that far more people feel dissatisfied than satisfied with the economy under the president. The same survey also assessed views on trade. It is vital as it impacts prices and employment. On the topic of trade, public sentiment was also strongly negative. The disapproval rating was equally high, reaching a net negative of 17 points. As with the economy, this figure shows that a large number of people disapprove of how trade is being managed. These negative views on the economy and trade contribute to how people perceive the president's performance on key domestic issues. The data shows that on these two crucial home topics, many people are not satisfied. Their views on these domestic matters are unambiguous. They reveal a strong sense of disapproval concerning both the economy and trade. This sentiment is significant because these issues directly affect the daily lives of many. How people feel about these home issues is a major component of their overall view of the president's job performance. The negative ratings for both the economy and trade underscore this widespread feeling of discontent. 4. Immigration. Immigration is a significant topic for many in the United States. People hold diverse views on how the government should manage it. This chapter examines public opinion on immigration policies and related issues based on recent data. One aspect of immigration policy is deportation. which involves sending individuals without legal documentation back to their home countries. People were surveyed about their feelings on the handling of deportations. The data shows that more people disapprove than approve. This is represented by a net rating of -20. This figure has declined from earlier in the month when it was -16. This suggests an increase in dissatisfaction with how deportations are managed. Regarding immigration policies generally, the public also holds distinct views. The data indicates that more people disapprove of the overall immigration policies than approve. The number representing this sentiment is -16. This number is also lower than it was previously. It was -11. This shows that concerning immigration as a whole, many disagree with the current approach. Immigration is a key issue for the government and the public. Government agency, Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE), is responsible for enforcing immigration laws. People were asked if they approve or disapprove of ICE's performance. 0.56% of respondents said they disapprove. This means over half of those surveyed do not approve of how ICE operates. 39% of people said they approve. These figures demonstrate that the public view of this agency is predominantly negative. A major question is what to do about the many immigrants residing in the United States without legal papers. People were offered two primary choices. One option was to provide most of these immigrants with a path to legal status. 64% of people supported this idea. This is nearly 2/3 of the respondents. The alternative was to deport most of these immigrants from the country. 31% of people chose this option. These numbers reveal that a majority favors a pathway to legal status over deportation for these immigrants. These findings indicate that public opinion on immigration is multifaceted. People have negative views on the handling of deportations and overall policies. They also show a strong preference for a path to legal status for undocumented immigrants and disapproval of the agency ICE. Immigration remains a key issue with diverse opinions among the public. 5. World events and ratings. People pay attention to global events. They consider how the president engages with other countries, which is known as foreign policy. People have different ideas about the best approach to this work. Surveys poll the public about the president's foreign policy. The numbers reveal how people feel. One survey showed that more people disapprove than approve of his foreign policy, with a net negative difference of 14 points. This indicates many people are dissatisfied with his handling of international relations. Military matters are also significant. This pertains to the nation's defense and its armed forces. People have opinions on the appropriate strength and use of the military. Surveys also inquire about this. One survey indicated that disapproval of the president's handling of military affairs slightly outweighed approval, with a net negative difference of 4 points. This number is not as low as for foreign policy, but remains in negative territory. Foreign policy is about ensuring national security and maintaining good relations with other nations. It involves making agreements, communicating with foreign leaders, and deciding on international involvement. When global problems arise, people often look to their president for solutions or protection. The -14 rating suggests many feel the president is not effectively protecting the country's interests or fostering strong relationships. Military affairs encompass decisions on military size, troop deployment, and defense spending. It also involves using military force in times of conflict. A -4 rating for military affairs, while less severe than for foreign policy, still shows that some are unhappy with how the military is managed or utilized. Many events are unfolding globally. One example is the conflict between Israel and Iran, a complex situation far from home. People in the country monitor these events and form opinions on how the president is managing them. Surveys asked about the president's handling of the Israel-Iran conflict. The numbers show significant public disapproval of his work on this issue. The difference between approval and disapproval was a net negative of 14 points, identical to his general foreign policy rating. This shows that this specific conflict is important to people and influences their view of the president's job. Views on world events contribute to the larger picture. People consider many factors when deciding whether they approve of the president. They think about domestic issues, like jobs and the economy. They also think about external affairs, how the president works with other countries, manages the military, and handles conflicts like the one between Israel and Iran are all crucial parts of his job. Public opinion on these matters contributes to his overall approval rating. When people disapprove of his performance in these areas, it tends to lower his overall approval rating. Different world events can alter public sentiment. A major development in another country may change opinions about the president's foreign policy skills. It is important to examine these different aspects of his job too. Understand the reasons behind his overall approval rating. The numbers 4, foreign policy, military matters, and specific conflicts like Israel-Iran indicate that these are challenging areas for the president regarding public support. People are watching and expressing their opinions through these surveys. 6. Many polls, different numbers, numerous organizations want to gauge public opinion about the president. They do this by surveying many people across the nation. This process is called conducting a public opinion poll. Polls are used to measure public sentiment about the president's job performance. They help us understand what the public generally thinks when different groups conduct polls around the same time. They often produce different results. The percentage of people who approve of the president's job can vary significantly from one poll to another. This illustrates that capturing a single, definitive number for public opinion is not always straightforward. Let's examine some examples from recent polls to observe these differences. One poll conducted by Gallup found that 40% of people approved of the president's job, while 57% disapproved. Another poll from YouGov and The Economist reported 40% approval and 54% disapproval. Ipsos and Reuters collaborated on a poll where 41% of people approved and 57% disapproved. The American Research Group presented different figures, showing 38% approval and 59% disapproval. These numbers indicated lower approval and higher disapproval than some other polls. A poll by the Bullfinch Group showed 41% approval and 54% disapproval. Morning Consult also conducted a poll with slightly higher numbers, 45% approved and 53% disapproved. Some polls registered even higher approval ratings, not offering a different perspective. For instance, a poll by RMG Research indicated 53% approval and 46% disapproval. Another poll by the Trafalgar Group showed 54% approval and 45% disapproval, meaning more people approved than disapproved. So we observe a wide spectrum of numbers when comparing different polls. Some polls place approval below 40%, while others show it exceeding 50%. This significant variation occurs because each poll surveys a different group of people. They may also phrase questions slightly differently or conduct them at marginally different times. Reviewing many different polls helps us see this range of public sentiment. It demonstrates that public opinion is not a single clear-cut number. By examining results from multiple groups, we gain a more comprehensive picture. It helps us appreciate the diverse views people hold about the president's work. This is why it is important to look at many polls. 7. Why numbers change. We've observed that different polls can report different numbers for the president's approval rating. This is a normal phenomenon. Additionally, these numbers can change over time. They do not remain static. Recently, some polls have indicated a decline in the president's approval rating, meaning fewer people expressed approval of his job. However, not all polls reflected this trend. Some polls showed the approval rating holding steady. For example, one poll reported 41% approval one week, and a subsequent poll from the same group also showed 41%. This demonstrates stability within that particular survey. Other polls showed a slight increase in the rating. One poll recorded 53% approval, while another from a different organization showed 54%. Thus, we see different trends occurring simultaneously. Depending on the poll, why do these numbers fluctuate? Why do they differ between polls? Several factors can cause the numbers to change or to vary between surveys. First, different polls survey different groups of people. A poll interviews a sample a small group chosen to represent the country's larger population. Different polls select different samples using various methods. This is a key reason why one poll might show 40% approval and another 41%. The groups of people they interviewed were not identical. Second, significant events can occur. Major developments can happen nationally or globally, related to the economy, foreign relations, or other important topics. When something significant happens, people might reconsider their view of the president's performance. Their opinion can be influenced by the news or the event itself. This can cause the numbers in the same poll to change from one week to the next. Third, because polls use samples, the numbers they produce are estimates. Polls have what is known as a margin of error. This margin of error means the true figure for the entire population could be a few points higher or lower than the poll's result. For example, if a poll shows 40% approval with a 3-point margin of error, the actual national figure could be anywhere from 37% to 43%. Small differences between polls, such as one showing 40% and another 41%, might simply be due to this margin of error. So, the numbers in public opinion polls change and differ for several reasons. They fluctuate over time as public opinion shifts, often in response to new events. They differ between polls because different samples of people are surveyed and because of the inherent margin of error in sampling. Understanding these points helps us interpret what the numbers mean. They attempt to capture how people feel about the president's job, and those feelings can change. Point 8. The main lesson throughout this story: we have examined many numbers. These numbers originate from surveys asking people about their feelings. We reviewed data on public sentiment regarding the president's performance. On many key issues, more people disapproved than approved. For example, regarding deportations. Many disliked the way they were handled. On economic matters and international trade, public approval was also low. The president's management of foreign relations and military conflicts also received low approval numbers from many people. These are critical issues for the nation and the world. We analyzed results from different organizations that conduct these surveys, known as polls. Some polls indicated low approval ratings for the president. For instance, some polls showed approval around 40%, or even as low as 38%. Disapproval in these polls was frequently higher, sometimes around 54%, or even 57%, or even 59%. These figures signify that many people were dissatisfied with the president's performance on these specific issues and, in general,